First of all, I would like to thank the invitation and congratulate the organization for such important and challenging initiative. So I'm talking about this project. We will see that it's more a process than a project itself, but the project is being conducted by 17 nations so far, other partners and stakeholders of the entire process, being in NATO and outside NATO, namely the EU is participating in the project and attending the meetings, what is quite important for the subject of this presentation. We have also strong links with some interested nations. Is not already here, but Georgia recently requested and sent us the statement of interest to join the project also. What is quite interesting to see the community that is being formed. So the purpose of the project is mainly to create a cyber defense education and training coordination platform and cooperation platform, and to provide new initiatives to fill mainly the existing gaps. So our target are the gaps, not the entire curriculum for now, but as we will see, it makes sense to see all those gaps as an entire curriculum, at least a first draft. So this is the holistic approach we use. We know that each cyber defense organization is built by persons. Those persons need education. Traditionally, we see education has courses. We really want to expand this concept to real education and graduate studies, and that will enhance the professional development of the cyber defense personnel. But we need also to validate competencies and skills, and we need the operational test bed to validate those competencies. So we need training and we need exercises. We need to use cyber labs, cyber ranges, exercises. There are already in NATO several exercises, namely Cyber Coalition is one of those exercises. And then we need to close this loop. So we will feed the organization with skilled personnel. Probably the first tour will be the most important one, because if we teach the teachers, we will enhance and accelerate this cycle, and it is quite important to see this like a cycle, a continuous cycle. So cyber defense, and I do think that we at this moment in this seminar we are perfectly aware that has an individual and a collective impact, but mainly in the center of this is the human element, the how is called the carbon component of information systems. So we need to take that in mind and focus on the human firewall. So this is the plan of work. We started by defining the cyber defense competencies and skills in order to have a sound basis to derive the training needs or the training requirements. We now analyze the available offer, meaning all the initiatives that will be available, and we contrast the available offer with the needs. So we will find gaps, and there are quite a few gaps, as we will demonstrate afterwards. After seeing the gap analysis and the importance of those gaps, we can prioritize the initiatives of education and training. This is also an important issue. After that, we will propose solutions, of course, and those solutions, as I mentioned before, we will be aiming to fill the gaps. In the deliverables, there will be a common education and training curriculum, and there will be also a coordination platform. We have already heard from the EDA representative, Michael Zieber, that there will be a coordination platform that will frame the efforts and will enhance cooperation between all the nations, mainly at the EU, because it's a EU platform. But there is no reason why we cannot extend that platform and the use of that platform to other domains, like multinational initiatives where NATO can fit in. So we can establish that platform as a cooperation platform between NATO and EU. This is quite an important issue, and that I would think that will help also to enhance cooperation in this field. So we are right now on conducting the cyber defense education and training requirements, analyzing the available offer. We will send and issue a questionnaire in the beginning of 2016 to all the the organizations that are providing education and training, and trying to collect those inputs and conducting in a certain way a stock-taking study on education and training. And then we already working and propose solutions for the gaps. So I would like to highlight this. We don't need any kind of education, as I will show you afterwards. We need to have a process, and we need to start by the definition of cyber defense. So we need to derive the value chain for cyber defense, know what cyber defense is all about, identifying the tasks that have to be performed under the cyber defense construct, and then conduct an analysis of those tasks and define the competencies and skills that will be required specifically for those tasks. Once again, we are not talking about everything. We are talking about a very specific and a very focused study. After that, we will need also to include the tasks and the performance of tasks in organizations. So we need to define a common approach to organizations framework in order to enhance interoperability, to enhance cooperation, and to enhance collaboration that is more than cooperation. In this sense, it's also important to see the nations that are in the middle of this cooperation. If we focus on nations and see how nations have to comply with NATO demands for interoperability and for EU demands for interoperability, we will find a certain level of interoperability and different levels of cooperation. If we succeed to find this, what we call a pyramid model, and we define what is the strategic level, operational, tactical, and all users level, we can find a broad definition that will be sufficiently accurate but broad enough to include everybody and enhance these descriptors to each level of cooperation. And that is our focus. So after that, we will identify the training audience at the several levels and the depth of knowledge that will be needed to perform the tasks. So there will be some sort of a table where we'll have the tasks, the subtasks, of course, and the different levels, the training audience, and the depth of knowledge that will be needed for each task at each level, at each training audience. This will be the final product of this phase. That will be the final product of the training requirements analysis. So in this domain, what we are trying to do is to align efforts. We took on board the efforts that have been produced by ACT. ACT is conducted a TRA and is now conducting a TNA. We are involved in these efforts, but we also include the final results of the EDA stock-taking study that conducted a preliminary TRA and a gap analysis. So doing that, we are feeding the process, and once again I highlight the fact that we are talking mostly about the process, not just the project itself, about these inputs, and those inputs will be taken into consideration. So the final results tend to be aligned between the two different organizations, being NATO and EU. So I come back to the courses offer. Cyber is very sexy, the term, so everybody wants to have cyber courses. The problem is that institutions tend to derive and construct the courses with the centerpiece are the teachers or the skilled personnel they have on board their own organizations. So they tend to offer what they have inside. So there is no much rationale behind what the specific school is offering a course like this or like that. There are, of course, efforts that we heard before of a sound basis for developing an entire curriculum, and it makes sense to see a specific offer inside the entire curriculum and the entire construct. But mostly what we have is courses that are being derived separately without any common approach and are just labeled cyber, and cyber is quite a sexy term, once again. So we have to move from one solution fits all to a case-by-case solution. And we need to define clearly the levels of knowledge, the training audience, and align vertically the several offers.
because those offers will feed the ones that are the technicians, the decision makers, and the operational domain practitioners, meaning the staff officers, for instance. Everybody should see the same thing, or at least have the same sound basis of knowledge, because otherwise we will have a decoupling of acting from one organization to another inside the same organization. There will be a lot of problems if you don't align competencies and skills with organizational framework. So this is our approach once again. What we followed as a sound basis for developing the curriculum was the modular approach. So our idea was to define the specialization level vertically, meaning that the cyber user is the less skilled personnel and the cyber defense warrior the most skilled personnel, because he has to know everything a cyber security professional knows, plus to conduct cyber operations is much more demanding. And if we see the level of education, basic, intermediate and advanced, we can construct such a table and have a modular approach to the entire curriculum. Being that if we use the cyber users, and that will be the cyber awareness course, we can try to include all these modules in the entire curriculum. So someone that starts as a cyber user, and we are all cyber users, will move in levels of specialization, making an add of blocks and modules in order to fulfill its own specific competencies and skills. So the entire curriculum will be developed like this. Inside the curriculum, we have already the several training audiences. So we have the basis for constructing a comprehensive overview of the entire organization and the competencies and skills and the courses that will be derived to feed the needs of education and training of that specific organization. Although we didn't have the chance to yet to conduct and define a working package for technical assistance, nationally we had already that experience, and we just launched recently, based on the same construct, a technical assistance course, being someone that is not a graduate one, but we need a lot of technicians, and we have already discussed that before. We need to have personnel that we can afford, lower level actions that will be repairing a computer, formatting a disk, or changing cables, etc. We need this kind of personnel, and those are probably very important at this stage. So we have right now an offer, a course defined for each of these levels. So we reach a point where we can define a first draft of the cyber curriculum and making the vertical and horizontal alignment of these. The virtue of this approach is that if, for instance, you have at your own organization someone that needs to have some competencies and skills to perform a specific job at a certain level in the organization, you can look to this approach and see, okay, to perform this task I need someone that have 2 modules of cyber leader, one module for the cyber law, and you construct and tailored the courses to a very specific job. Since we have this construct in place, we just bring more flexibility to education and training on cyber. So another project that we have already, in fact there are 2 projects, and I take the advantage of speaking here because Professor Didier and Sansir are participating at this working package. We are just developing 2 master courses, international courses, being cybersecurity and cyber defense international masters. The idea is to target the decision makers that are at the operational level, that need to organize the technicians, the technical level, tactical level, and make a link with the strategic decision makers. We need really these kind of professions right now because they are the building blocks of the change of the paradigm that we live right now, that we don't have enough and skilled personnel at all levels, and this level will be an enhancer of the development of the capability. So there are other projects already developing this kind of approach, mainly the UK, Spain, and we have ourselves our project running since 2002. So this is roughly the approach we followed, five modules, I'm just finished, and 2 years, like any other master degree. So this will stay for delivery afterwards. I will not go deep into details. We define, based on the Nunes construct, 3 levels of specialization, 3 different domains: cybersecurity, cyber defense, and another one that is not so much referred, this cyber management and research and development. So just to sum up, I would like to leave you with these 6 ideas. In the cooperation between NATO and EU, we need to be more ambitious and inclusive. We have to talk about of the real world, try not to leave what is technical being polluted sometimes by political reasons. It's true that we can move fast if we move alone, but we will reach farther if we move together and jointly. We have also to have a realistic and sustainable approach. So we should concentrate and conduct a rational based on a task-based and capability-driven approach. What is needed, not what we think should be needed, because that is a very different. We should invest in people. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to take on board the various efforts that are being laid by different entities and try not to duplicate. That's the 12th amendment of Michael Scriber that just presented us today. We need to think strategically to see what we want to achieve and move in that direction, not to detain ourselves in the obstacles of tactical approaches. We need to move further and stronger probably, and we should be innovative and produce enduring effects. It means that we need to think out of the box. The traditional approaches don't work in cyber. So we need also to consider that possibility of being innovative and also think about things that will endure in time, not to have a project that will be ended 1 year. We need an effort that will endure and endure in time. And mostly, the most important piece, I would say, keep it simple. Don't complicate. Thank you for your attention.